Good morning, friends. There is so much goodness happening in here. I'm so excited to share that with you. Although this video is actually going to focus on what not to do when planting. All right, let's go over here to this blueberry bush. This is a great example. Can you see how the mulch is actually mounted up? There's a slope here. My hand is so flat, and then look at, there's a really steep slope. Do you see that? So that means that all the water we put on the blueberry bushes here is going to drain right off. Another thing, see how close this mulch is to the bottom of the shrub? You don't want that. You got to pull it back a couple of inches. The mulch is up next to the shrub. That's going to actually promote fungal growth, and it's going to kill the tree. Now, this tree is planted too high, and I know that because it should be right where the top of the roots are. So if we start moving some of this around, some dirt around, we want to find the top of, and what I'm seeing here as I'm pulling it out is you can actually see where it came out of the planter. See that shelf? Also, not what you want to see. You want your roots to be spread. Now, I can't even get my fingers in here. It's so dense. Another sign that that is not good, right? You want to be able to have your roots, when you put them in the ground, you want to spread them out nicely. They just put them out wide. So when you plant, if I were planting this bush, I'd actually put the shrub here and then I'd cut out an extra diameter. So if it was this wide, I'd cut out this wide, right? So I'd actually be making the hole twice as big as the plant. Let's see. Oh, here we go. All right, so this one came directly out of the pot. Dirt wasn't even knocked off the bottom. Right, so what you want to do here is you really want to loosen up the dirt. It needs to be, the roots need to be loosened. So that's what's not to do here. They put the mulch around the sugar apple tree, but they put it way too high. So look at it. They staked it, which is fine, it's good, but look at, do you see this different colored tree bark? The tree is stressed, it doesn't like that. They did a good job with the height of the dirt. You can see the top root is here, and you want the dirt to just be at the very top of the root. So I'm actually gonna unstake this for a minute. I've got plenty more tape I can come back and use later. I can restake it. But we need to make sure that it's not bound. We need to make sure that this guy is just perfect. Because if he's root bound, if his roots are hugging each other, they're gonna grow over each other. And if they grow over each other, then either the tree will die within a couple of years, so it'll look good for the first year or two, maybe even 3, and then it's gonna die, or it's just not gonna fruit. Now digging this up, look what I found. I found a worm. That's a really good sign. All right, let's see this. I don't know what this is. This is another part of a stake. Okay, that's interesting. Let's see. Let's dig around a little bit here. Okay. It's good that these roots are going out. This one shouldn't have been crossed. It should be opened up, right? So what you want is you want your roots to go outward. I'm probably not as gentle as maybe I could be, or even necessarily should be. But okay, so this root is curving down, and what should have happened when you planted this was this should have been spread outward. The roots will find their way down. They don't need help with that. They need to be spread outwards. So let's pull this mulch back a little bit. Let's pull the dirt back. Let's see how this one's looking. It's not bad so far. I gotta give them some credit. The planting team did a fine job so far with this one, and that's good. That's really good. That's what we want to see. Okay, let's see. All right, I'm glad they put it in. Now, like I said, they did put it in too deep. You can see the discoloration on the trunk there, and that means that the tree is stressed. So digging these up, I'm gonna need to, and I'm gonna fix the roots. They're gonna need a lot of water and care for the next 2 weeks until they get reestablished. digging up a tree or a shrub like this, it can actually shock the plant, and that can be bad. But you know what? It's worse to have root bound or bound roots than it is to have a shocked plant, because a shocked plant can come back. But a root bound plant, like I said, it's not gonna have a very good chance of survival. Okay. Let's see, so if I follow the main ones, I can already tell that these two wanna get awfully close. Let's see what happens if we dig a little bit further down. Whoever planted this one did a nice job knocking a lot of the dirt off. They really did. I'm really happy to see this. Uh-oh, this isn't a good sign. Look at this main root. He is all twisted. All right, let's keep going. Normally, I wouldn't be digging up my trees, but I need to make sure that they're in here correctly. And as I saw yesterday with my mulberry tree, the roots were all sorts of bound. See how? I wasn't looking for this, but it is what I found. And I was really hoping I wouldn't find it. I'm just doing it with my left hand. Of course, digging with two hands would be a lot quicker. Yesterday, as I was digging stuff up, oh, come on. I found that they left tape in here. Now, you hear my disappointment with the, oh, come on. Look at this. They took this tree. They did a good job knocking the dirt off, but look, they left it all directly on the bottom. You've got to knock it off. You've got to really spend some time loosening the dirt. This is how not to plant a fruit tree if you want success. They even have knives and stuff that you can just shave around the bottom, you know? But you've got to do it. When you do it, even if you just do it halfway like this, that's just not gonna cut it. That's not good. All right, so this is a bound root. Do you see this? You see how this main root here comes down and it's getting hugged really tightly by this root? See, so this root, it's getting such a strong hug, I can barely move it. This actually has to be cut apart. And when the roots grow like this, that's either going to kill the tree or it's not going to allow the tree to fruit. So this one needs some help. All right. Let's go to the next plant. Again, you can see the slope. This was planted way too high. The ground is here. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see a little better. Okay, the ground is here and you can just see the slope, right? It needs to be planted in the ground. This hibiscus is another perfect example. Something planted way too high. Do you see the slope? Here's the ground and here's the hibiscus. I don't know if the hibiscus was actually planted that high or if it's the mulch that's been placed way too close to it. So let's take a look. All right, here we go. Okay. So here's a root. That's good. Okay, so it is planted here, but it's planted too high. The hibiscus needs to be in the ground. I'm in Central Florida. The heat of the sun is just gonna bake this guy. Now, you may be wondering why some of the sticks are bare. The red sticks are bare because my children keep coming around and eating the leaves. They have a beautiful, wonderful, citrusy taste. They're great for munching, they're great for salads, frankly, they're just delicious. So my kids keep coming around to eat them. Now these guys here, I don't know, maybe it's not doing well because it didn't get proper irrigation love, or maybe it's not doing well because it is planted too high. So when you plant the plant too high, what happens is the water comes and then it runs off. Look at this, he's not even in the ground. He is sitting on top of the ground, surrounded by mulch. Can you see that? All right, I want to talk about these blueberry bushes. So here's a blueberry bush. Here's a blueberry bush. Blueberry, blueberry. These blueberry bushes all need to be moved. Blueberries don't like acidic soil, and so they shouldn't be planted near fruit trees. This blueberry that I dug up, he needs to be moved. He's sitting next to an apple tree. He's sitting next to, well, the fig tree shouldn't make a huge difference. He's sitting next to an orange tree, sitting next to an apple tree, across from a mango tree. They're not gonna do well here because they don't like acidic soil. Okay, oops, sorry. So the blueberry bushes need to be moved. Let's take a look at this moringa tree. I looked at the moringa yesterday. That's why it's already dug up. Now the moringa is planted way too low. Check this out. Look how far down I dug. I dug down to the original soil, okay, friends? This is my moringa tree. I've dug down. I'm a full hand in soil. I still haven't reached the roots. Look at this. This is insane. This tree is planted so far down. The whole thing needs to come up, and it needs to be planted higher. Do you see the difference in the color of the bark? That means that the tree is stressed and it needs to be planted better. All right. Let's take a walk over here to the banana circle. The banana circle is too small. I know this looks like a nice big circle. It's, looks like a decent size. However, it's too small for actual usage. And the reason it's too small is, see these banana stalks? This tallest stalk here, she's the grandmother. So she's going to fruit first. And after she fruits, you chop her down, you throw her in the banana circle. This big tree is never gonna fit in this little banana circle. Now, after you chop down the banana grandmother, the next tallest one, this is the mom, so she's gonna fruit next, and then the granddaughter will fruit. So the banana tree needs to be larger. Also, see these cute little pups? They need to be uprooted and moved to their own banana circle. So the banana circles need help. These are blackberries. Blackberries tend to do well here in Central Florida. However, they're thorny, and supposedly they run rampant once they get established. So guess what? These blackberries, because we're gonna be walking back here to get to the banana trees, the apple tree, nectarine, this apple, the cherry tree, they're thorny. They need to be moved along the fence where it's not gonna hurt anybody. Okay, let's go over here. Oh, look at this other mulberry. I've just noticed him walking. See the difference in the color of his bark? It's because a few different things. First of all, the mulch is way too high. It's stressing him out. It can breed fungus. Now, let's look at where he's planted. This doesn't belong to him. I don't know what that belongs to. Okay, so here's the dirt, but I don't see his roots yet. So let's just clear a little bit of this back. So what you do is you move your cardboard back. You pull up weeds as you see them, or grass. Okay, so moving cardboard back, that's good. All right, so we're gonna move it back. We're gonna move the mulch back. I've asked the team that's coming out today, they think they're finishing, I hope they do. I've asked them to bring some more soil, but they think there's gonna be enough, which I just don't have faith in it, so maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. All right, so you can see, as I'm pulling the dirt back, it's already making the natural line from where it was in the pot. Do you see how that's breaking off in that natural circle there? I'm not trying to do this. I am trying to see if the roots are bound or if it's actually okay. And of course it's planted too deep, so I want to make sure it gets planted right. Now, one day when I was out here with my team, the company I'd contracted, I was walking around and I heard one of the people that they had brought in to plant say, hey, if you want me to do something differently, let me know. And one of the company owners said, no, I trust you. So this is what happens when you trust people to plant plants. It doesn't get done right. Plants are living creatures and they need to be put in properly. All right, let's keep going here. I'm trying to get around it. I'm trying to not hurt the root system. There is a method to the madness. have a much deeper appreciation right now for how plants are planted, what makes them grow, what makes them thrive, how to give them the best start. You know, it's kind of like if you have two children and one child has just the most amazing start in life and one child has a start where they struggle. You know, it's not that the child with the most amazing start is necessarily going to do better, although the odds are in his or her favor to do better. And it's not that the one who struggles isn't going to be able to make it or be happy or successful or do well. It's just that it's going to be a much harder climb for that child without all the fine advantages that the other one has. All right, so I'm going to be a little bit, I'm still being gentle, I'm being a little bit rougher, but I'm still being pretty gentle. Let's see. I'm just picking these at random, just as I'm walking. I wanted to actually take you over to a different area, so I'll show you that. Another thing, I'm not trying to bash the company that I'm working with at all, but I am trying to tell you how to plant your food forest or your garden or orchard successfully, and tell you what not to do based on my experiences. So I reached out to them last night and I'd made them aware of the Rootbound, and I sent them a few pictures, and I probably shouldn't have just pulled it up, but look, you know, it's not horrible. Let's see how the roots are when I knock some of the dirt off. You know, they had said it's really personal preference. They like to knock the dirt off. They've planted thousands of trees, and taking the trees out will shock them. Well, I don't know that shocking them is going to be, like I said earlier, you know, I'd rather shock my plants and treat them with water and good fertilizer than plant them in a way that they're not going to either fruit or they're going to die. So he said it's a personal preference. My preference is to do it right the first time. And if not the first, then the second. I'm just shaking some of the dirt off. Yesterday I did this with a hose. Truthfully, the whole orchard needs to be pulled up, and it needs to, you know, we really need to make sure that it's done well. I'm just shaking the plant and getting a lot of the dirt off. Man, I just showered. I might need another shower after this. All right. So it's looking all right so far, but I can't even get my fingers in, okay? It's packed so tightly. It needs to be loosened up. It really needs to be loosened up. And I feel like how I do when I do my hair. I'm just... So these roots look okay to me. So, all right, and then when we replant it, what I'll do is I'm going to actually raise it up to about here. And I'm going to spread the roots out long ways where they want to be, which is over here. Okay, let's see. Don't be afraid if there's a root that needs to be cut, to cut the root. You know, try and get it out, try and get it untangled without cutting it, but don't be afraid to cut it. You know, and I'm going to plant it here, where the top of the root matches the top of the soil. So all of this tree stem, the trunk, will be happy. Let's try another one. I wanted to talk to you about, oh, all right, so this is interesting. This is a Suriname cherry. This is an olive. This is a Suriname cherry. This is an olive. The Suriname cherries need to be moved closer to each other. So I'll move this one over to here. They like being with fruit trees. That olive needs to come over here because the olives don't want a lot of water, whereas the Suriname cherries do. Fruit trees love this water. So when I put the cherry trees next to each other, they'll be able to enjoy lots of water, and the olives won't get too much water since they don't want that much. The problem with needing these plants to be moved is that the food forest wasn't planned out properly in advance. So whenever you're working with plants, you always want to plan properly. You want to make sure that you know which plants need more water so you can put those closer to each other, whereas the plants who want less water can be closer to each other. That way, as you're planning your irrigation system, which you should do at the beginning, you can plan properly. This will save you headaches and time and money in the future. Another thing to consider is the type of fertilizer your plants want. Put the ones that like similar fertilizer together. Put the ones that don't want that type of fertilizer somewhere else. put plants who like each other together. So I told you with the blueberry bushes where they don't do well by fruit trees because they don't like acidic acid, or by citrus trees they don't like acidic acid, so don't put them there, right? Plan properly. Set yourself up for success. Plants love having companions. Do your research and see which companions each plant wants. Some of them like bee balm, some of them like lemongrass, some of them like nasturtiums. They all like something different and the same. There's a lot of overlap. Finally, think about the best planting season before you plant. Our strawberries were planted in April, and the best planting season is actually September through November. And some people will even say October and November. So now they're under a shade screen, and it's a 65% shade screen, although that's not ideal. Ideal planting would have been to wait and to do it during their optimal time. Similar to the strawberry plants, these nasturtiums were planted in the wrong season. These beautiful little flowers, or the flowers that were super duper pretty at one point and are sort of starting to not look so hot now, because as it gets past 90, they'll be probably dying, unfortunately. These zinnias over here, also not a great choice, although the internet says that they can grow in zone 9B. Unfortunately, with the heat and the humidity of Central Florida, they're also going to probably be dying soon. So that's something I would have hoped that my pros would have shared with me, and maybe suggested a different plant or different flower, different pollinator, different companion for this area. I'm grateful they didn't plant any more than they did, but you know, you can only do so much of your own research, and then you hope to talk to other locals like I did, and you hope that they give you really good information. Here I am at this beautiful nectarine tree, and I'm going to show you what not to do. So I came over here to move the mulch away from the base of the tree, because remember, the base of the tree doesn't like mulch. So I'm picking up the cardboard that my wonderful contractors laid down, and guess what? The original mulch is here. The mulch that they told me is not ideal for the soil. So what does that mean? That means, oh, look at that cool centipede. And I just saw a spider run by. That, and they didn't do the job because they said they'd be moving all of that old mulch away. So this guy, he's actually fine. I think he's fine, because he's doing really well. Let's just get that centipede someplace healthier for him, hidden out of the sun. Okay, right, but he doesn't want all of that mulch. Can you see the difference in the color? I don't know if it's showing up, but anyway, if you're gonna put cardboard down to keep the weeds at bay, what you do is you move the original mulch. You don't take mulch and cardboard and mulch on top of that. Oh, here's one I did. So I did this incorrectly. But it's a great example again of what not to do. Let's see how high up it is. I just sort of piled it on. So I'll come back, I'll fix that one. Okay, here's an example. See the loquat? It's in a little ring, which is fine. You know, when you're done planting what you want, oh my God, look at how much mulch there is here, honestly. Okay, so when you're done, we're gonna move the mulch back. All right, you can see the two color barks. So we've got the bottom that was covered by mulch. He's gonna be angry, he's gonna get fungus. We've got the top who's happy. I don't know what this is. This is interesting. We've got the top who's happier. Now, when we pull it back, you want to leave the mulch about 2 inches from the tree so that the tree can still have plenty of room to breathe, and it still gets the irrigation, and it doesn't get the fungus from the mulch. Okay. Ooh, another worm. Look at that. That's a good sign. Hi, wormy. So, like I said, you know, there's a lot of good stuff happening in here, but I'm in it for the long haul. I'm not in it for the next 2 or 3 years. I really want the plants to fruit. It is a food forest. That is the point of a food forest, is for the fruits to fruit, the plants to fruit. So Let's see what happens when we start digging this guy out. I've done a lot of research. If you have questions, I'd point you to the University of Florida website. They have a ton of information, tons of resources. All right. Let's make sure this guy isn't also root bound. So the roots keep going. That's a good sign, I think, that the roots are stretching outwards. That's good. That's good that the roots are stretching outwards. I don't want them to be straight down. I want them to go out. Okay. I just need to make sure he's not root bound. So I'm gonna leave him in there. He's pretty well in, and it looks okay so far. So in a food forest, ideally you'll have the cardboard going up to the fence, if you have a fence. So like right here where the cardboard goes just about up to it, that's really good. But you really want to be consistent, or else you're going to get weeds growing in your food forest. Don't leave the weeds here, because they're just that. They're weeds. They're sucking up nutrients and water from the soil. They're going to take away from your food forest or orchard or garden, whatever it is that you're working on. How do I know that those weeds didn't pop up after they planted the grape plant? Well, when I pulled them out, there was no cardboard, just dirt. So that would suggest to me that they may have forgotten this area, or maybe it wasn't an issue for them, but they mulched over this part, and then the weeds had no mulch over them. I have another cute weed. I have no idea why these were left. I don't think they're gonna hurt anything. And it looks like they have some little flowers, so they might bring some beneficial insects, pollinators, bugs. So I may end up leaving this, we'll see. They certainly cardboarded around it, which is sort of funny, but I mean, if you're putting in a food forest, you should make sure that what you're putting in is what you actually want. If it's worth doing right. Here's another thing I did wrong in planting the food forest. I did a lot of research about, oh, see that? That's good. I did a lot of research about which plants thrive in my zone. I even wrote down some of the planting times. And then I hired the quote-unquote experts. But see, I trusted them to do their job without proper oversight or management. And why that's the wrong thing to do is I'm pulling back the mulch and the cardboard to give this tree some dirt, and it's still surrounded by its original mulch. This isn't the right type of mulch for these trees. This is really good for blueberries, but not for these trees. And the guys actually noted that it's not the best mulch for these trees. So they were going to move it, but instead they just cardboarded over it and mulched over it. So something I did wrong was I did not project manage carefully enough. I didn't realize that it needed to be my job to come out and check their work. As they were going, I had trusted them at their word that they were professionals and experts, and evidently I was wrong. So learn from me and be your own project manager. Bounded roots occur when the plant is planted in the pot, so the roots don't have any place to go. So then they just start circling themselves. And that's why it's so important that when you're planting them in the ground from a pot, you do it properly and you release the roots. Look at this guy. He needs all this pulled back. See the difference in the color? He's so unhappy. And where's his first root? Okay, so the first root comes off there. It's not horribly deep. It's a little bit deep. I'll come check him later. Beautiful. I think you're a little peach tree. All right. When you're planting in Central Florida, there's some really good peach trees that happen in Central Florida, that happen to grow well in Central Florida. So you really just have to be aware of what it is that you're doing and make sure you get the right variety. Here's another thing you don't do when you're planting, especially with mulch. You don't dump the mulch on the plant and leave it there. Especially when the mulch isn't even supposed to be right up next to the plants. Right? You should have little green areas, but the mulch pushed back 1 or 2 inches. Look what happens when I unbury these pineapples that are shoved under mulch. Just the mulch, check this out. I mean, I'm no expert, but I don't think we want to be planting our leaves. This one didn't have too many under, just a couple little guys. This one probably won't have too many under, right? He's so big, how could they miss it? We're just gonna shove it under some cardboard. Oh, yep, okay, so let's undo this guy. When you're putting cardboard down and you're laying down mulch, you don't want to cover up your existing healthy plants. That's a weed. Let's just take this guy out. Maybe. I'm using all my body weight and he's not coming. I'll come back to him. Look at all these beautiful pineapple things. Fronds, is that what they're called? I don't know. But look at this. We're just moving the mulch back. So, you know, I don't know why they're buried. I can't imagine that helped them to be buried. Let's talk about the mulch for a minute. This mulch is what's in the entire food forest. It came from some trees that were recently cut down. It's called fresh mulch. Another way to think of fresh mulch is living mulch. So the living mulch is still actively collecting, actively breathing in nitrogen, which means that it's taking nitrogen away from the plants and it's competing with the plants for the same nitrogen that they want. So what you want to use is mulch that's a year or 2 old. This is a challenge when you work with a startup. So in this respect, you may want to make sure that they have the right supplies. They have someone they can get the supplies from, or find a more established company with a longer history. You'll also see the hay. The hay was not included in our original bid, but it's something that you should do. This is a good thing in the orchard. I'm pretty happy with the hay. You can see that it is keeping a lot of the weeds at bay. I got it from Tractor Supply. It wasn't very much, maybe 15, 20 bucks. I just went in and told them what I needed and they showed me the exact stuff to get. A lot of these are annuals, so I may even get more hay next year when I replant this area. Another thing not to do is neglect the walkways. Just because there's foot traffic here, and in this situation, it's not very much foot traffic, so at least the backyard. Don't neglect your walkways. Before I go in, there's one more plant I want to stop and talk about. And it's this guy. Little oregano. You see what's happening here? He's the same. Do you see what's happening? These guys weren't even put into the ground. This is exactly where they came out of their container, and they were just popped in on top. They're not deep enough. The heat of the Florida summer, they're just gonna get baked by the sun. As long as we're planting, let's do it right, people. So those are a few tips on what not to do. I have these pots. I have no idea what they're gonna be used for. I was told that fig trees like this guy need to do better in pots. So we're gonna put them in something pretty. Oh, something else I didn't remember. When you use boxes to suppress the weeds, take the tape off. I just got these last 3 pineapple plants in the ground. And actually, I planted a lot of these. The moral here is if you want something done, you may just need to do it yourself. I spent hours and hours and hours over days researching what types of plants would grow well in my zone, what type of plants I wanted in my orchard and my food forest. I spent so much time plotting it out. I actually drew it out. I have diagrams with raised flower beds and It looked awesome. So what I learned though here is that nobody will ever care about your food forest or your orchard more than you will. It's like having a small business. Nobody will ever care about it more than you. You can't wait for other people to do it. You can't trust them to just go do it, right? They're not just gonna necessarily do the right thing. You have to do it. So when I say that, and I started with the few little pineapples I put in over there. Those were actually my pineapples from the yard that they dug up to move, that they left in pots to die, along with a number of other plants that were left in pots to die. Some new from nurseries, some from my yard, but you know, nobody will ever care about it as much as you will. And that is so true. But something else I learned from Food Forest Abundance is that when you hire someone, do your due diligence. Make sure that who they are is who they say they are. Talk with their past customers. Get referrals. Look at their work. If you're starting with a startup like we did, you know I love startups, but figure out a plan, talk with them to make sure that you're going to be a priority. A lot of people have second jobs, and I respect that. I did the hustle for a long time while I was starting my first business. And you know what? If you're hustling and planting, then you should hustle hard and hustle smart. Don't come out in the middle of the day on your day off. Come out early morning before you go to work, in the evening after you come home from work. Do it in the cooler parts of the day. Don't stress yourself like that to come out in the middle of the day. You gotta hustle. You gotta have that drive.